Content warning. The Matherson Marriage contains unhealthy relationship dynamics and fictional domestic abuse. If you are in a real-life Matherson marriage, please reach out to the appropriate authorities for help. Resources you may find helpful include the Pixel Project's Domestic Violence Resource page and UN Women's International Helplines list. Resources will be linked in the video description for accessibility. Hi, I'm Morgan, and today I will be reading from The Matherson Marriage by Ruby M. Ayres. Chapter 13. Pansy left Green Gables with her husband at 9 o'clock the following morning. "I think it's a splendid idea," Violet said with enthusiasm. "It will do you a world of good. I'll look after Buster and see he doesn't miss you too much. Stay away as long as you like." She seemed struck by Pansy's silence, for she caught at her hand, pulling her round and peering into her face. "Why, don't you want to go?" she asked, uncertainly. Pansy tried to smile. "Not very much," she admitted. "London's so hot this time of year. Don't tell Basil, but I believe I'd really rather stay at home." And it was from that moment Violet knew instinctively that Pansy was not happy. She could not say what gave her the conviction, but it left her with a feeling of fear which she could not dismiss. She stood at the door for a long time, looking after the car, and afterwards, when Buster dragged her down into the garden to play, she was so silent that he asked pathetically if she was cross with him. "Cross with you, my cherub?" She hugged him to her. "Am I ever cross with you? I was thinking about Dodie, that's all." Buster's face fell. "Dodie's gone away," he said disconsolately. "Not for long. Soon be back," she hastened to assure him. "And have you got me? What shall we play at?" But, though she exerted herself to amuse him, the morning was not very successful, and at lunchtime, when Buster showed signs of cheerfulness and of wanting his mother, it was Joyce who suggested going for a drive. Buster's face brightened instantly. "See Tom Tinker," he urged excitedly. The two girls looked at one another. "Lynn wouldn't mind," Violet said quickly. "We'll get Gates to drive us over." But they met Lynn halfway, trampling along the roads hatless, and with Tom Tinker at his heels. "We're on our way to you," Violet said, as the car stopped. "We're all miserable, especially Buster, so we thought Tom Tinker would work a miracle. Might work a miracle and cheer us up." Buster stood up on the seat and held out his arms. "Lift me down, Lynn," he commanded. "Pansy's got away, you know, or at least I suppose you don't know," Violet rattled on. "Basil's taken her to London for a few days. I think the change will do her good." Lynn had taken Buster in his arms to lift him down, and for a moment he held the child as if he had forgotten what his purpose had been, until Buster began to wriggle impatiently. "Put me down! Put me down!" "It was rather a sudden determination, wasn't it?" Lynn asked. "Very, I should think. They fixed it up last night, apparently." Violet got down and joined him in the road. "I'll walk back with you. You go in the car, Joyce, and wait for us." Buster was racing on ahead with Tom Tinker. "I hope there's nothing the matter that your sister has gone away so suddenly," Lynn said. "I don't think so," Violet hesitated, then asked, "Lynn, will you tell me something?" "What is it?" "Do you think Pansy is happy?" He turned his head sharply away. "My dear girl, how do I know? I hadn't seen her for years till chance brought me here." "I know, but you've been to the house a good bit since, haven't you?" she insisted. "And you've got eyes, like other people, and you must have formed some sort of opinion." "Why, must?" She frowned. "Well, haven't you?" she urged. "Because I've only been here 3 days, and I know, I'm sure, that she isn't as happy as she ought to be." "What makes you think so?" Violet considered. "I think it's all the things she doesn't say," she answered at last. "It's all the things I know she's got locked up in her heart and never tells to anyone." Ramsden said nothing, and she went on slowly. "It's a horrid thing to say of my own brother-in-law, I know, Lynn, but, well, sometimes I think he's a pig to Pansy." "I'm afraid all men are like that sometimes," Lynn said. "Well, then I call it disgusting," Violet declared. "Pansy's the sweetest thing. I'm sure it can't be her fault. If a man spoke to me as I have heard Basil speak to her, I should just leave him, and that would be all there was to it." "Would you?" "Yes. I don't think it's right for anyone to be unhappy when there is no need." "How do you mean? When there is no need? What could happen that could make your sister happier than she is now?" Violet shook her head. "I don't know, but she does," she answered with sudden wisdom. "I've seen an expression in her eyes sometimes. What did you say, Lynn?" "Nothing." They had reached Chiswell's and were walking up the drive through the garden. I hope you're not shocked at us coming to see you, Violet said naively. It's really Buster's fault. He wanted Tom Tinker. I'm honored. He looked down at her and met the half-shy friendliness of her eyes, and suddenly Pansy's little anguished whisper of 2 nights ago came back to him. Oh, Lynn, I'm jealous, horribly jealous. And his own bitter answer. I wonder if you know the meaning of the word. He knew it. During the past 3 weeks he had surely descended to the lowest depths of the bitterest jealousy. There had been nights when he could not rest, nights when he had trampled the miles to Green Gables and walked up and down outside the garden with murder in his heart, days when he had almost flung everything to the winds and gone to Pansy boldly, moments when he had hardly known how to keep his hands off of Basil Matherson. But the one restraining influence had been Buster. Pansy would die if she lost the boy, and Lynn knew that if she gave herself to him, Buster would be taken from her. What hope was there for any of them? He tortured himself ceaselessly, trying to find a way. Pansy had got to suffer whichever way they chose, whatever they decided for the future. When he and Violet reached Chiswell's, he insisted on them all staying to tea. He dreaded being left to himself, and the thought of Pansy in London with a man whom he knew she hated and feared. It seemed a lifetime since that night in Hazel Lane. Sometimes he believed that those few mad moments had been the end as well as the beginning. How long will your sister and Matherson be away, do you think? He asked Violet. She shook her head. I don't know. A week, perhaps? She didn't say. They're staying at the Carlton. She turned to look at him as the car moved slowly away. You won't desert us because they're not at home, will you? He made some reply which she did not catch, and she sighed as they turned out of the drive. Why on earth hasn't he got married, I wonder? She said to Joyce, a note of impatience in her voice. I wonder why on earth he hasn't. Joyce looked at her with faint cynicism in her keen eyes. Some people were very blind, she thought. And that is the end of Chapter 13 of The Matherson Marriage by Ruby M. Ayres. Thank you for listening to this chapter with me, and I hope that you have a great day. Bye!